In the quiet town of Grayridge, far removed from the noise and chaos of urban life, a dark mystery unfolded over the span of 5 years. Nestled among thick woods and winding rural roads, Grayridge was the kind of place where people rarely locked their doors, and neighbors greeted each other by name. But beneath its peaceful surface, something sinister was lurking. A figure that moved silently through the town's underbelly, leaving behind nothing but questions and fear. Locals would eventually come to know him as the lone shadow, an unknown entity responsible for one of the most chilling crime sprees in modern small-town history. The first disappearance was almost too subtle to raise alarm. Eliza Granger, a 32-year-old librarian, failed to show up for work one chilly October morning in 2014. Her co-workers assumed she was unwell. But when she didn't respond to calls or texts, her friend went to check on her. Her car was in the driveway, the front door locked, and her phone inside on the kitchen counter, but Eliza was gone. There was no sign of struggle, no forced entry, and no indication of where she could have gone. The only odd detail, a crude drawing etched into the back fence, a shadowy figure, elongated and faceless. At the time, no one thought much of the symbol. The police treated it as unrelated graffiti. But within months, another person vanished. Then another. Always quiet individuals. Always at night. And always with the same eerie mark left behind, sometimes on a wall, sometimes carved into tree bark, or left scrawled on a mirror in soap. The town, once known for its safety, was now gripped by fear. By 2017, 5 people were missing, each case strikingly similar, each investigation leading nowhere. The FBI was brought in, but no pattern emerged beyond the symbol and the victim profile. There were no ransom notes, no digital footprints, no witnesses. The only common thread: isolation. All victims lived alone, had minimal social media presence, and stuck to a quiet routine. Whoever the lone shadow was, they were patient, calculated, and terrifyingly precise. The case took a dramatic turn in late 2018, when a man named Jeremy Holloway, a night security guard, claimed to have seen a figure outside the building he was guarding. According to his statement, it was a tall silhouette standing perfectly still just beyond the fence line, watching. When Jeremy shone his flashlight, the figure was gone. What was strange wasn't the sighting itself, but what was found the next day. Less than 50 feet from where Jeremy stood, police discovered a small personal item belonging to one of the earlier missing victims, a locket with the initials EG. For Eliza Granger. That discovery reopened all 5 previous investigations. With renewed urgency, authorities began to piece together a chilling theory. The suspect wasn't just a predator, he was an observer. Someone who studied his victims for months, possibly years, before striking. He knew their routines, their vulnerabilities, and their blind spots. He never left fingerprints, never tripped a single security camera, and left behind no DNA. The only clue was that shadowy figure, his signature. Forensic psychologists consulted on the case suggested a highly intelligent and possibly obsessive individual, someone who took immense satisfaction in control and elusiveness. They believed the symbol was not just a signature, but a psychological mark, a taunt, a reminder that he had been there and would return. In early 2019, everything changed. A woman named Nora Fields narrowly escaped an attempted abduction. Her account provided the first real description of the suspect, a man in dark clothing, wearing a mask, who attempted to pull her into a van parked behind her apartment. She fought back and managed to flee, calling police from a nearby gas station. Surveillance footage from the area captured a partial license plate, which led investigators to an abandoned property on the outskirts of town. Inside, They found what can only be described as a chilling shrine: dozens of photographs, journal entries, and surveillance logs of the victims. Everything had been meticulously recorded. Days, times, interactions, routes to work, favorite coffee orders. The walls were covered with pages, maps, and in several places that same crude shadow figure. It was the lair of someone who had made obsession into a lifestyle. The home was traced to a man named Thomas Hale, a reclusive former cartographer who had lived in Grayridge under multiple aliases. He had no known family, rarely interacted with others, and used cash for almost all transactions. When authorities finally located and arrested him, Hale said only one sentence during questioning: "You only saw what I wanted you to see." In court, prosecutors unveiled the extent of Hale's crimes: stalking, abduction, and likely murder, though to this day, none of the missing victims' bodies have ever been recovered. Hale was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Even behind bars, he has refused to speak further, leaving many questions unanswered. Today, Grayridge is still haunted by the mystery. Though the town has begun to heal, many residents say they continue to check over their shoulders at night. The legend of the Lone Shadow remains not just as a tale of fear, but as a reminder of how darkness can hide in plain sight, even in the quietest of places. What drove Thomas Hale to become the Lone Shadow? Was it obsession, a need for control, or something even deeper we may never know? But what we do know is that for 5 long years, a predator walked among a town that never saw him coming, until it was almost too late. After Hale's arrest, forensic teams spent months combing through the materials found in his hideout. Among the most disturbing discoveries were detailed floor plans of the victims' homes, labeled with notes about locks, windows, and blind spots. It became evident that Hale had been breaking in long before the disappearances occurred, not to harm, but to observe. Items had been slightly moved, lights flickered, small changes that victims may have chalked up to forgetfulness. But it was all part of his psychological manipulation, along slow erosion of his victim's sense of security. This level of intrusion suggested not just methodical planning, but a twisted enjoyment of control.